Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the JB Rambo Show. I am your host, JB Rambo. Welcome. All right, guys, let's jump right into it. All right, so this week, I'm pretty excited because I got me some guests lined up. I hope you guys enjoyed the guests that I just had on. Thank you to Michael Delgado and to my boy Anthony Aguilera. And he had his match and he did extremely well. I caught some clips of it. He came up short, but not a big deal. My guy's winning in life, and that's what matters. All right, guys. And just to remind you guys, I have my match coming up in the OC International Open. If you're competing in the OC International Open, drop a message into the comment section. I'd love to hear, about you a little bit, or you could DM me to see if we can get you on here and you could talk about your match or your matches that you've had in the past. I like to do that with jiu-jitsu guys. So one of the things I talked about this morning in my morning devotional, if you guys didn't catch it, I usually put out a morning devotional during my 3 a.m. run that I like to do. And this morning I talked a bit about heart disease and diabetes in men because it's one of the leading causes of death in the United States of men. It is what it is. We are a fat culture. We are getting there, and men and women, of course, but mainly men are overweight. We're eating too much food. We're eating too much bad food, saturated in trans fats. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I do have plans in the future of getting one of my buddies who is a type of ER cardiac nurse type deal. Don't really know exactly what his title is, but he works in the medical field and knows a lot about heart disease and things like that. So I'd like to get somebody on the show who can talk to the guys about what's happening in your body when you put junk food into your body. If you're like me, I eat junk all the time. I mean, I eat, my worst thing that I eat is donuts. I'm sure everybody knows that guy, or they seen that one guy, no pun intended, who says he's a big donut guy, but he's all chiseled up and all that. You know, good for him. That doesn't really happen for me. When I eat donuts, I could feel it. Anytime I eat some sugar, I could feel it in my hands and in my limbs, probably because I'm diabetic, where I could feel all the inflammation going on in my body. Whoa, I didn't realize how buff I am. Look at that. But I could feel all that happening in my body just from a simple donut or cookies. Oatmeal raisin are my favorite. And anytime I eat cookies, especially, if I've been sitting down for a bit that whole day, I could feel it. It affects me in my run. If you've ever had cookies or donuts before a run or the day before a run, your legs and feet feel like you're carrying sandbags. You can feel all that, like it feels like sand at the bottom of your feet. And it's really hard for me to run like that because my feet will hurt. From hitting the pavement, it's gonna hurt. So part of what I'm trying to do right now is encourage myself and others to be more cognizant of what we're putting in our bodies. We got to be more cognizant of what we put into our bodies because we have families. A lot of men have families, whether you have your own family or you're a part of a family. There's a good chance that there's people out there who love you and want to see you healthy so that you could be around for a long time. It's unfortunate that, we have to be very careful with the things that we eat, but we don't realize, and sometimes we don't care when we're young about how it's going to affect us in the future. I'm 45 right now, and I am already kicking myself in the behind because of the way I treated my body growing up. I was the kind of kid who, unfortunately, would drink a 2-liter of soda almost every day. During the summer times were very lonely times for me because, we were out of school. And if I didn't have my cousins to play with that day, or if my friends couldn't come over, which was quite often because in those days, we didn't have cell phones and There was no real way to connect. If you didn't have your friend's phone number before the last day of school, there was a good chance you were going to spend your summers without that friend. And I would, every single day, I would wake up and watch TV, being sedentary as a young kid. And then I would walk down to there used to be a supermarket called Alpha Beta near where I live, or where I used to live. I'm married now, but near my mom's house. And I would pick up a 2-liter of Coke or some kind of a drink, some kind of a soda, Sunkist or RC Cola, whatever it was when you were a kid. I would pick up a big bag of chips, usually Ruffles, something like sour cream and onion, which was one of my faves. And then I'd get either bean dip or cheese dip, sometimes both. And I'd walk myself back to my mom's house. It was up a hill, but I still went back to my mom's house, and then I'd watch TV all day. I'd watch TV shows like Saved by the Bell, Family Matters, all these. I'd be there all day with a bag of chips, some dip, and some soda, just vegging out, zoning out on TV. And if I would have known that I was gonna wake up one day in my 40s, talking about how I got diabetes and I'm all jacked up, probably got heart disease, and not only that, but developed habits that came with me into my adulthood, I wouldn't have done it if I would have known I was gonna be sick all the time or feel sick. I'm still at a age, 45 years old, where I could turn it around. And so could you if you're dealing with something similar. If you got the same type of problem, or if you're my age or even younger or older, it's never too late to turn it around. So this month, especially going into my jiu-jitsu match that I got coming up on the 27th and 28th, my goal, and I'll hit it, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, get myself to 200 pounds. That's my goal, to get myself to 200. Because I'm doing the 207 and under for gi, and then 203, somewhere around there for no gi. And it's totally doable. I woke up this morning at 220. If you remember last week, I posted a video. I think 227 or something like that. So a little bit of weight came off, which is good. But I still have a long way to go. And so as I go through that next 2 to 3 weeks of taking off the weight, because I'll do it. The real key and the real problem thing that I have to solve is, how do I keep the weight off once the matches are over? Once I get myself to looking all chiseled up and looking great, looking really good, better than this, then what am I going to do? Chances are, if we look at the history of everything, I go right back into the same habits, doing the same thing over and over again. And as they say, expecting a different result. But there won't be a different result if I go right back into eating like crap. So usually what I do when I cut weight is I will, go on a very strict diet of eating not chicken and rice, but basically I just starve myself. I was about to lie to you, but I'm not going to lie. I'll just starve myself, do a lot of fasting, eggs, a diet that I normally wouldn't eat. So I know this time going in, I got to have an actual good diet, something healthy. And I'm super excited because I got a guy coming on this upcoming Saturday who I consider to be an expert in weight loss. This is a guy who's lost quite a bit of weight. And the dude looks amazing. He's a jiu-jitsu brown belt. I don't know if he turned black belt already, but he's a really good dude. And he is going to come on the show, and I'm hoping to get some good nuggets out of him on how to lose the weight. But once the weight is off, how do you keep it off? Because it's got to be a lifestyle, I would imagine. Once you taking off the weight, super easy, but keeping it off, because at the end of the day, we have these natural urges to eat things like sugar and, overeating, all that kind of stuff. That's how I roll. When I go somewhere, I'm eating. I eat. And I don't know where that comes from, why I feel I need to eat so much, but I just love food. But it may go a little deeper than that. Maybe we need to get a psychologist out here and try to figure out what is that makes people overeat. what is gluttony, or overeating, and how do we solve that problem? Because I think that's a big problem here in the United States. I think that a lot of it probably has to do with the quality of food, but also there's got to be an element of what's going on upstairs right here. You know what I mean? And so I'm really interested to dive into the bottom of this problem, because I know one thing for sure: I'm going to lose the weight and I'm going to look great. But then I'm going to do something that's going to trigger me going right back into the old habits and putting on 20 pounds over a weekend. I don't know about you, but I could put on 20 pounds over a weekend. I've done it. I mean, I just a few months ago, I was at like 200, 202. This was literally like 3-4 weeks ago. I was at 202. And then over a weekend, and maybe just like over a 5-day period, I was back at 220. So losing the weight's super easy. What's not easy is, basically intermittent fasting, starving yourself for the rest of your life. That's just doesn't seem realistic to do that, right? So I'm on a mission to figure out, how do we solve diabetes and heart disease in America? I know that's a big job to do for little old me, but as the channel grows and more people are watching, and hopefully somebody out there who has a lot of these answers will hear what we're trying to do here on this show, and maybe reach out to me and say, hey, I know something about that. Maybe you should bring me on the show so that we could help people stay off, make some changes in their life. I don't know if it's a life hack or whatever you want to call it, but we can get people to lose the weight, cure themselves of diabetes and heart disease, and be able to live meaningful, long lives. Longevity is something that is important to me, because I have kids. I have children that love me. I have a mom who, although I live with my wife now, but I have a mom who's approaching, her mid 70s. She's not quite at her mid 70s. So I don't want her to hear this and get mad, but she's getting older, and it's harder as you get older, it's harder to move around, and you're going to need help. One day I'm going to need to be there for her. And no mother should have to bury a son. And that just shouldn't happen, especially when it's preventable. And I think heart disease and diabetes is preventable. It starts with the parenting, first of all. Not to rag on my parents, but they kind of dropped the ball there, letting me go to the supermarket every day and giving me money to pick up a big bag of chips and dip and a 2-liter of soda every single day, and then sit sedentary watching television. I was a chubby kid growing up, that's for sure. I must have had a great metabolism, because I wasn't that chubby, but I was pretty chubby, pretty much what I am right now. My kids make fun of me every day, so I know I'm chubby. I don't feel like I'm chubby, but my kids love to make fun of me, and I'm getting kind of tired of that. So time to do something about it. But it starts there with the parenting with the kids. And then when you're an adult, we got to take responsibility for that, because, not all of us, put the weight off quickly. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% convinced that being thin is an indication of good health, because I think even thin people, probably there are some thin people, not all thin people, but I suspect also have bad eating habits. You look at them, they look okay. You're like, hey, man, that guy looks, he's thin. But we don't know what's going on in those arteries. I've seen skinny people die of heart disease, and skinny people can have diabetes. So that's definitely, not necessarily an indication of good health. So definitely in the works of getting an expert here on the show so that we can educate ourselves on. I know everybody can just go and watch a YouTube video, and there's a lot of information out there, but I would like to get to the bottom of it as well, because unfortunately we're still a pretty fat society, and I don't think people are getting the message. And that comes with building each other up. That's one of the things I like to talk about all the time, is having a group of men in your life, or if you're a woman, other women, that will give it to you straight, motivate you, encourage you to live a better lifestyle than the one you're currently living. assuming you're not living up to your full potential. So that's something, I think is extremely important when it comes to longevity and having good health. It's definitely having people in your life that build you up and encourage you to make better decisions in your life. It's not just good for you physically, but mentally as well. It's definitely something that I've experienced over the last years, is having a lot of good people in your life that you can talk to, that you can share ideas, all that kind of stuff. It's good for your mental health, honestly. Next, I wanted to talk about, I think that everybody has a story. I think everyday people have great stories. There's people who have overcome a lot that you don't get to hear about. When we turn on the YouTube channels and all that kind of stuff, usually we see the same people being cycled around to every podcast and YouTube station. You got guys like Jocko Willink and what's that other guy? Stay Hard, David Goggins, and Joe Rogans and Jordan Peterson type dudes, who I love. I love watching those guys. I think those guys are great for society. Some guys are better than others. Some guys have their uses. I think like Andrew Tate has a lot of interesting things to say about men. I don't agree with everything that he says, but all these different people on the internet space, men who have a lot of good stuff that they share, but they're not the only stories out there. There's a lot of great men who do great things, but you'll never hear about. And I'm hoping that on this show, we'll be able to have men on here. I wouldn't turn down a celebrity if they wanted to come on my show, but my hope is that we'll get some men on here, average everyday men that can share their amazing stories, whatever they be, that can help build men up, help build people up, men and women. This show is primarily geared towards men, but it's not just for men. It's for women too. I'm hoping to get at some point some female jiu-jitsu and MMA fighters. There's a lot of women out there that I see that I keep tabs on that are doing amazing things, and I'm hoping at some point to get my wife, who's an amazing athlete and been a coach for 22 years at the highest levels, and has done some amazing stuff and has a personality like no other. At some point, I would want to help her. Not that she really needs my help, but get her to, start her podcast, because I know that she can lift a lot of women up and, bring them into the fold. It's not just men who suffer. Women, I'm sure, have their own struggles, which I am not qualified to speak on, but my wife is. So that being said, there's a lot of people out there who have stories, and I want to encourage, all of you people out there listening, to find your grind, whatever that is. If there's something out there that you've been wanting to do and been putting it off, I want to encourage you to do it. If there's a change in your life that you've been wanting to make, I know you can do it. You have the power. And if you need a little extra help, which a lot of us do, you can find some of that power in the Lord Jesus Christ. That's where I find my strength. Not everybody gets their source of, not that Jesus isn't everybody's source of strength, but that's certainly my source of strength. And I sincerely believe that. Jesus Christ have done a lot of amazing things for me. He got me off of drugs, for example, where I was for 25 years unable to do that. But I have been able to do that through the Lord Jesus Christ, who has done that for me. So I really want to encourage people out there, not only to tell your story, but to if there's changes or something going on in your life that you want to do, you can do it. You can totally do it. If I can do it, if I can make changes, and believe me, there's people out there who know me from back in the day that would say, I know that guy, that guy's a scumbag, or I know that guy, that guy's a drunk, or I know that dude, I don't know about that guy, or they say, well, I know that guy, I remember that dude. Nobody changes. Nobody changes that much. Those people are definitely out there, right? And there's a lot of people that don't know me, who might say, "Hey, man, that guy's really something," or he's come a long way. There's a lot of guys in jiu-jitsu who have seen me transform myself over the last 7.5, 8 years, where they saw me, not necessarily a scumbag, but they seen me, transform from, a waster guy who just did jiu-jitsu, drinking and smoking pot all day, to a dude that's, trying to build himself up. So I know that if I can change, there's people out there that think they can't change, but they can. There's definitely something out there for everybody. I think that God has given everybody a gift. He's given everybody something. And I'm hoping to find it in people. I'm hoping to bring people on this show that have stories of transformation, because that's what this show is about. This is a show about people, everyday people that undergo some serious transformation. And with that story, God willing, it'll encourage someone else to make a change in their life and undergo their own transformation, and then so on and so forth, where they too will be able to tell their story. So I'm really looking forward to the future of this show and what it's about. People, as this show's still developing, people will see, as what it morphs into. Obviously, my show right now is about building people up, about getting the stories that make change in people's lives and building each other up. Things like what's going on in marriage. How do we improve marriage in this country? Or fitness and health. How do we improve fitness and health? How do we improve as parents? How do we build stronger societies? How? All these types of things I think are important. People are always concerned about what's going on here, what's going on there, what's going on in that country, what's going on in this other country. But I think people need to be concerned with what's going on right here in front of their face. Everybody wants to look at the big picture or the macro level of things, but no one's paying attention to what's happening right here in their own backyard. Where I live, there's plenty of things going on. There's plenty of people that need help. There's plenty of people that are doing big things. We don't have to. It's not that you can't focus or shouldn't be educated on what's going on in the world, but there's also a lot going on here locally. And there's people who will listen to this podcast from somewhere far away, and they will be able to hopefully be inspired to make some changes or start a movement of some sort of health and fitness and marriage and dating or whatever it is in their own backyard, their own neighborhood. Right. So that being said, I want to encourage you guys, to, if there's something you want to do it. Don't be scared of that. Today, also, I'm going to be training. I'll be doing some training at jiu-jitsu, and it's been about 3 months since I've trained. I got matches in 2 weeks, but I haven't trained in about 3 months. But the cool thing is that jiu-jitsu for me is like riding a bike. Some people, will say things like, "Oh, I haven't been around. It's been 6 months since I've trained." Like where I'm about to row with them at either at a class or an open mat, and because people don't like to lose or get their butts kicked. But for me, it's, I get my butt kicked all the time, but it's to me, being 3, 4, 5, 6 months, not really an excuse. This is something you say sometimes, but it really is like riding a bike. Your body doesn't think so. Like right now I got this big gut, so obviously I'm not going to go inverted, but I'll be able to make those adjustments, do a lot of pressure passing and easy on the neck, of course, but there'll be things that I'll be able to do to make those adjustments and be like I was riding a bike. Never forget, Although I'm not saying it's not important to train, it is important to train. But there's definitely some things that you can do to, make it easy on yourself when you come back from a long hiatus. And part of that is just getting right back in it. I have a long way to go until my matches. 2 weeks is to me is a long way to go for losing weight. And just in life in general, I got plenty of matches in my future, plenty of things going on. And my journey, I'm excited to see where it's taken me. I mean, I know where I want to go. I want to go into a place where I'm reaching people, reaching men and women in getting into their lives and making a difference, and hopefully inspiring them to do something outside themselves, something great. Because I think we all have it in us. Everyday average normal people have that. And that's part of my journey. And I know that from experience that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. That is one of my favorite quotes, because it's basically what it's saying is that all you got to do is get started. Some people disagree about that philosophy. It's not about getting started. You got to prepare and all this other stuff. But for me, it's like, just get out there. You're not going to be great at everything all at once. Like this podcasting thing for me. I knew I was going to, not be that good. I'm going to suck on some days. Some days things are not going to make no sense and they're going to suck. And then other days I have really cool experiences, like especially with the people that I interview and stuff. A lot of times that I feel really good about that. And I know that it's taking part of the journey. I'm not so hung up on, where my podcast goes or where I end up with this whole thing or where my jiu-jitsu journey goes and all that stuff. I know that I've heard from other people probably on a podcast that's telling me, it's about the journey. Don't be so concerned about the destination. It's the journey of getting there. Wherever you end up, you don't always end up where you plan on going. And so I'm really excited about the future of this show and what we can do with it. The types of changes that can be made, not only in me, but in you who's watching. Even if I only changed a life a month or whatever, it's just very arbitrary. But if we're able to make a difference, because there's a lot of people who have podcasts that made differences in my life. People like Jordan Peterson or Jocko Willink or somebody like that has said things that resonated and stuck with me. And, one thing that I will say that Andrew Tate said that stuck with me. And it's probably the reason why I make, I'm joking a lot when I say look at me, I'm buff, or look how handsome I am, or I'm the best jiu-jitsu guy in the world. There was something that Andrew Tate said that really resonated with me. He basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, you'll never be better off. You won't be worse off for believing that you're something, that you're the best. You're not. It doesn't hurt you to just believe and say to yourself, you're the baddest dude out there. And I feel like I'm the baddest dude out there sometimes. I know in reality I'm not. There's always thousands of better jiu-jitsu practitioners than me. There's thousands of better podcasters than me. But am I worse off for thinking that I'm the best? No, I'm not. As a matter of fact, it's that type of mentality that finally kicked me into gear to start making these videos. Stop caring about what people think about my videos. I got somebody actually disliked one of my videos, and it was great because I was like, hater. Just straight up hater. Because there was nothing in my video that was like offensive, or it's just me talking like I am right now. No big deal. And I thought to myself, ooh, I like that. I got me a hater. Someone actually did a thumbs down on my YouTube video, one of my videos. And I'm glad that I'm in a place now where it doesn't affect me one bit in a negative way. A couple years ago, back in 2020, when I first bought this podcast machine, that probably would have bothered me, where I would have been like, oh man, someone doesn't like what I said. I must have said something bad. And then I would have went 3 months without making a video or something like that. And now I'm in a place where I'm like, I don't like my stuff. A matter of fact, if you're listening to this, do me a favor, click the unlike, just so I know you were listening. Because at the end of the day, this is mine. Like, you can't take this from me. My personality, the way I feel about myself, my motivation, my grit, you can't take it from me. You can't allow people to take that from you. And that same goes for you people watching. No one could take your grit. No one could take your confidence unless you let them. Right? There's always going to be haters. People are always going to hate on you. And you know what? Someone said this. It's probably my wife who said it. But basically, and it's not an original saying, but she was saying, if people don't dislike you, if people don't like hate you or are hating on you, then you're probably doing it wrong. Even Jesus said they're going to hate you because of me. You know, if you're a Christian, for example, and people don't hate you, they all love you, chances are you're probably not a real Christian. Sometimes that worries me because, you know, I wonder if, well, I do have a lot of haters, so I don't know. But I don't think it's because of Jesus necessarily, but I do have haters. I know I do. Like, I know I have haters. It's because you can tell by the way they treat you. And that's okay. That's a good thing to have haters because they're going to be watching you. They're the ones who you're going to get the most from, I think. You know, if somebody left a negative, if I had comments, I don't really get comments that much in my videos. But if I did get comments, the ones I'd probably pay the most attention to are the negative ones because I'm going to learn the most from those. You know, learning is vital. It's key, man. Like, you can learn so much from people who give you criticism. You're hoping to get constructive criticism, but even if it's just straight up criticism, there's a lot to learn from that. People saying, oh, great job, Dre. Oh, man, it was amazing, Dre. I love that. Don't get me wrong. I would love for someone to say, hey, great job. And I've had a few people tell me great job. And I love that. Don't get me wrong. But there's only so much you can learn from that. It's just like when you learn from your failures. That's where the learning comes from. It's failure. And sometimes that failure will kick you down. It'll put you down. I mean, that's definitely happened to me where constant failure in something that I was trying to do, you know, maybe want to quit or just put it off for a while. I definitely have something like that in my life right now that I'm putting off until maybe maybe in a couple of years I'll come back to it. One of my goals. But, you know, you learn from those mistakes and failures, and, you know, you also learn a lot about yourself. How do you respond to those failures? You know, are you going to get back up, or are you just going to stay down? Are you going to rise to the challenge, or are you just going to let people tell you what you are? When people tell you that you ain't shit, are you going to believe them and not be shit? Because if you do, that's sad, because there's something there that you can use to lift yourself up, pick yourself up, and move forward. All of us got to move forward, because when you're not moving forward, you're regressing in life. That I believe that there is no staying still. Ooh, I'm happy right here. I want to be right here in this spot, and I don't want to go nowhere else. I'm super happy where I am. I don't think that's a thing. You're either moving forward or you're moving backward. You're progressing or regressing. It's no ways about it. And so we constantly have to be challenging ourselves, moving forward. And that's what I love about jiu-jitsu, because you learn from jiu-jitsu how to use step by step, you know, the process of it all. When I teach my students and I teach them a technique, I always try to reinforce them, the idea into them, that you have to go step by step to get the results you want. A lot of times my students, or I'll even just training, I'll see where when they're doing a technique, they just kind of they glide over steps. You know, they just kind of go from A to Z without actually, you know, opening up the guard, turning your shoulder and pushing down on the knee, you know, when you're doing a guard pass, and then, you know, sitting down with your knee shield up, and then crossing your leg over to get into the knee slice and making sure you're getting the underhook, and then sliding in, you know, picking up the arm towards your belly and then sliding in like you're you know, into the Kasakatami position, and then scissoring your feet so you can come up and, you know, step by step. A lot of times I'll just open up the guard and jump over the leg and try to get into side control. Well, same thing, you know, like with life. Same thing with the process in life, is doing step by step. I'm learning that with the podcast. You know, how do I go step by step to reach more people, find more success in the podcast, in the YouTube, in the, you know, in the internet space? That I know from jiu-jitsu that it's a process. I got to figure out what that process is. And I got to make sure that I'm not spread too thin, where I'm putting in the appropriate amount of time into this podcast. It takes risk. It takes movement, action, strategy, implementation, help from others. It takes a lot of stuff, and I'm still figuring it out. But that's the way it's going to be in all areas of life. Whatever it is you're trying to figure out, you got to, you know, you're going to have to use strategy and technique to get there. I got jiu-jitsu coming up, so I'm gonna end this podcast. But I would just say I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I have here in this podcast to be able to do this. I'm grateful that I made the decision years ago during the pandemic to buy this podcast machine and all the little knickknacks and stuff that I have to be able to put a good, a visual show together. I'm grateful for the new studio that I have, all this, the table, all this stuff I pieced together. All this stuff, I pieced it all together. The lights, the cameras, the boom arms and the microphones and all this stuff. I'm grateful that I did that because now I get to start a whole new journey, something new that I never thought I could do before. And it wasn't, thankfully, that I made a lot of decisions like getting sober because it's really hard for God to work in you when you're drunk all the time or using drugs. It's really hard for him to use you. And I'll talk more about that in the future. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. So thank you. Oh, and I'm also grateful for all of you who are subscribing and giving me likes and, leaving comments. I appreciate all of you. And it means a lot to me that you're doing that. And it motivates me to keep the show going and so that we can get the message out there, reach more people, all that kind of stuff. So that being said, I just want to thank all of you for that. And I'm looking forward to many more good episodes. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow and all this week. I got some guests coming down. I have a pilot, like an aviation pilot coming in who's also a jiu-jitsu practitioner that's scheduled to come tomorrow. The next day, I have another guy who's going to talk about weight loss and his transformation. This is an amazing dude. He's also a jiu-jitsu practitioner from another gym called the Dog Pound. And so I'm looking forward to him coming out. And make sure that you share these videos, like them, subscribe to them, and let's keep this movement going. God bless you all, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Oh, and stay holy. I like to say that. Stay holy.